Welcome again to the Tech Factor podcast with Purple Quarter. Today we have Gopi Prashanth from Redmond. Thank you so much for doing this late in the evening, Gopi.
Not at all. I'm happy to.
Awesome. So Gopi and I have known each other for a long time, but Gopi, the audience would like to know a few things. I have a few questions for you, though, it's not part of what we discussed earlier, but I need to ask you this. So you completed your aeronautical engineering in IIT Madras, and then you took up computational science. I really want to know what prompted you to take computational science as your master's, right? Could you talk about that a bit, from aeronautical to how did it
lead? This kind of dates me, but that's okay. I'll at this text of sounding old, I'll anyway go ahead and say the answer anyway. So when we got into IIT in like 97, it wasn't a choice. So you basically got a rank, and then that rank pretty much dictated what branch you got into. It didn't depend on whether I wanted to study aeronautical or whether I wanted to study computer science. It really didn't matter. So to me, like aeronautical was like the closest to computer science I could get to. Let's put it that way, right? The other choices were metallurgy, chemical engineering, and civil engineering. So I'm like, yeah, those things, you got to build stuff. I'm not good at it. So I'm better at coding. So aeronautical is the best I could do. And so that's how the aeronautical came in. And then even in aeronautics, while I was at IIT, I basically went ahead and did computational fluid dynamics, which was more like on the computational side rather than on the experimental or thermodynamics or any of that side, right? So I did that. And when I came to the US to do my master's, I could either apply to a computer science program and risk the possibility that I get rejected, basically because I'm from an aeronautical background, or I could find a program that allowed for other engineering disciplines to get into computer science, and that was the computational engineering. And there were like 2 or 3 colleges that offered it. I just found a college that would give me full financial aid and applied and got in. So that's the story. It is like about my aim was always computer science. It just took a long way to get there.
Got it. So because I got interested with computational science and did my little research on, what really one does versus computer science. But I really love the way that your career has shaped post your ed creds, right? So you did get into video gaming pretty early. Tell us a little more then. Was video gaming, interesting during those days? 1995, I suppose?
No, this was 2001. Hey, you're making me older than I am. So, yeah.
Sorry.
So yeah, it's 2001. And so it's basically, I mean, this is the journey of pretty much anybody who comes to the US, right? It's not always like all rosy and hunky-dory. So when we come over here, like literally September 11th happened on in 2001. And then 2 months after that, I basically came to the US. And so all the visa restrictions and everything put together, getting a job here when I graduated in 2004 was very difficult. And there were very few companies hiring at that time. Even the big ones were not. So pretty much it was not, it wasn't a choice. It was more like what I would get. So there were some companies which were hiring, which were like the visual effects companies like Blue Sky Studios and a bunch of those guys. And as part of computation engineering, I had done a bunch of very involved mathematics courses and very involved graphics courses. And so those two gave a good background for me to get into either visual effects or video gaming. And surprisingly, video gaming is a very, very strenuous field. The reason is nowadays everything is done on the cloud. But when you are on a console, you have a fixed amount of resources that you need to work with. So you need to get the most optimal algorithms. You need to get the most optimum graphics, lowest latency, best network, everything. You need to squeeze all of that juice out of that one single device. So it's a pretty challenging field. So I thought about like visual effects and this, and I have no sense of design. So I said, okay, visual is something I will not be able to appreciate. So video gaming it was.
Oh, great. So was there anything to do with hardware? Because unlike today, video gaming then was also done on a device, right? Like an actual device. Did you actually work on the hardware side as well, apart from what you built on?
Yeah, so there is so I didn't build the hardware. So that was Xbox and PlayStation, right? So they basically owned the hardware and to some extent Nintendo GameCube. So those were the hardware devices, but it did get down when you're talking about graphics and stuff, right? So higher level programming languages usually you kind of code in them, but they're not most optimal. if you want to get the most optimized juice out of the device, you want to get as close to the assembly layer as possible. So there were things like shader programming and a bunch of other things that you had to pick up in order to push the console to its limits. So in that sense, like I picked up like direct hardware programming, but I didn't actually interface with the hardware itself.
Very interesting. So you did pick up a really difficult problem soon as you started your career. And then I see that you've, went into search when you were search and personalization when you were in Yahoo. You also built an ad platform. And then when you moved on to Amazon, I'm quickly moving forward to the interesting part where you build the Amazon Go, right? So
yeah.
can you talk about that a bit? I know we've spoken about this a lot, but this is for all the audience who are watching out there. So can you talk about how did the idea even come into play? And what is it that you guys were looking at? Computer vision AI during those days wasn't so popular, right? So walk-in, walk-out store. How did that happen?
So it wasn't actually, I would say it was a problem looking for a solution. Computer
Okay.
vision just ended up being um, the discovery that it could solve the problem. So literally, like before we zoned in on computer vision, we actually built and killed 18 technologies, right? So almost like 18 different ways of understanding what a user did in the store, which were like partially computer vision or non-computer vision. They were all built and destroyed in our labs.
Wow.
So that's kind of the level of research that went into the program, like everything from RFID stickers to you name it, right? Every single technology possible. We had to figure it out, learn quickly, experiment with it, and then like see to what level we could take it to. So it's not just that, can this solve the problem today? It's more like, does this have a path, an algorithmic path, operational path, and a hardware path to get us to the level of fidelity that we need to make a high fidelity transactional system out of it? And so when you consider the raw signals coming in from all these different sensors that we ended up using, we just came to the conclusion that computer vision was the most malleable signal that we could conquer, because your algorithms could continuously evolve over time without having to go back and change the hardware itself. Right. So that it could take us closer to where we wanted to be for a transactional fidelity. And that's why we zoned in on computer vision. And so even that zoning in, it took us like 1 year to get there.
Wow. Wow. So when you put the Amazon Go together, I wanted to really look at, did you see any other use cases since you guys had already built this? Did you see that if it can be used anywhere else? Did that come to your mind at all?
There were quite a few use cases that we tackled about, but unfortunately, I cannot share a lot of them with you.
Sure.
Some of them are probably still in development.
Right.
Even though I'm out of there for the last 2 years, I'm pretty sure there are people continuing to work on other areas. But yes, I mean, if you look at the Palm payment software, right? So Amazon One, so that came out of a need, right? So it basically said, can we use something like computer vision to make a human palm as their identity? Because there is enough unique signal over there. So why do they need a credit card? Why do they need the phone? Why can't they themselves become their biometric sensor? Right. So that is kind of what led to the evolution of the Palm payment. So it was based on like very similar computer vision as a malleable platform on top of which we can keep improving the algorithms to get to a transactional fidelity that is needed for almost credit card payment level accuracy.
Wow. Interesting. So when you were doing all of this, and I recall our times, we've met quite a few times, we've had discussions. Um, there was a need for you to be an entrepreneur, but that was actually really not the first thing it wasn't on your go-to item, right? How did this emerge, Gopi, all of a sudden that you wanted to move away from whatever you're done and wanted to be an entrepreneur? How did that come and how long did that take?
It's always been in the works. So something that happens when you come to the US from India is that invariably you get into the rat race, right? So the rat race of like, I need my H-1B visa. That's going to get exhausted in 6 years. So I need my green card if I want to continue staying over here. And that's going to get exhausted in like 5 years. So I need to apply for my citizenship. I need to secure my children's future. I need to make sure like, my family finances are taken care of. So once you get into that race, you're in that race for for a lifetime. Unfortunately, the entrepreneurial ecosystem in India was not what it is today. Like if I were to graduate today, I would just be in India. Like
Sure.
you couldn't pay me enough to get to the US, just because the entrepreneurial ecosystem in India is so rich and there's so many problems. We'll come to this later again, when we talk about other aspects of entrepreneurship. There's so many problems that need to get solved that it just is a huge opportunity mine for like anybody who wants to build a company or build a product. So that it makes a lot more sense to be there. But when I graduated, that wasn't the case. I was just like following the shepherd, right? So I wasn't trying to do anything different. Okay, all of my seniors went to US, all of my classmates went to US, so I also went to US. It's very simple. And so once you get into the rat race, it's very hard to get out of it. But I came to a realization at some point in time, when I finished my second stint at Amazon, that what, at this point, if I don't do this, this will be my biggest regret for the rest of my life. It doesn't matter when I graduate, when I graduated, anything that happened, but this will be my biggest regret. So like Bezos always says, right, there's a regret minimization framework. So if when you are 65, you turn back into your life and look at like what is your biggest regret, the fact that I never started a company and I never like tried to be an entrepreneur would be my biggest regret. So I just wanted to eliminate that, and this was the path to do it. So that's it. Just jump
Sure.
2 feet in.
You were also an investor, right? You've been an early investor in multiple companies. Even while we were speaking, this is 2016 onwards, you've been investing in company, if I'm correct.
That's
If I've got
correct.
the
That's
dates mixed
correct.
up, let me. Yeah. So talk about a little about, because these two are two separate items, right? Being an entrepreneur is completely different. Being an investor on the other side, even if you're an angel investor, you're thinking very differently. So talk a little bit about how did you get into investing?
So my initial foray to investing was very happenstance.
Mhm.
Uh, everybody's heard of Shark Tank, and now apparently there is a show like that which is famous in India as well,
Yeah.
right? So this was like when Shark Tank was very, very small. There was a local show over here in Seattle called Disruptors,
Okay.
and it was a very similar format. And of the angel investors in the Seattle area, apparently, they liked my profile because it was AI and computer vision and stuff. And so they basically pulled me in and said, like, would you like to invest? I'm like, I don't know what kind of companies are coming. And Chaya was the lady running it. And she basically said, why don't you come and find out?
Okay.
So I just went there as one of the judges. And that's kind of like my initial start into investing. And through that experience, I learned how to judge companies and what to focus on and what my investment thesis is and why I focus on that as the investment thesis and stuff like that. So it is a good eye opening for me in terms of how do I evaluate companies, how do I evaluate founders, and how to evaluate technologies. And that's evolved over time, but that's how I started.
Okay, hold on to that thought. We'll come back to it later. But let's talk about your entrepreneurial journey, right? So you did take up a stint as a founder, and now you have a app and a platform which is for fitness. Why fitness? You did so many other things, right? You did agri-tech, you did e-commerce, and then suddenly fitness. How did that come to you?
Uh, so remember I talked about regret minimization framework?
Yes, you did. Yeah.
Right. So entrepreneurship is one regret. Second regret is not being able to focus on my fitness and my mental wellness. Right.
Okay.
So those are the two biggest fitness and mental wellness aspects of life that I wanted to correct. And so Fithub was basically thinking about, so in the race of earning more money, career growth, becoming a director at Amazon, and long hours coding in the gaming company, increased salaries, for better lifestyle, you name it, it just keeps going, right? So once you get in, you constantly, it's never enough. So in that process, the thing that basically ended up falling by the wayside was my personal health and well-being, like mental well-being, right? So not saying that I had an episode or an event or anything, none of that stuff, but just the realization that that was not something that I was prioritizing. So that and basically what happened is I was seeing a change in my wife, and she totally got into fitness. And I was seeing a visible change in her attitude towards life and the way she started looking at things. Like once, like she is super regimental, right? So she works out every day. First thing she does in the morning is that. I can never do that first thing in the morning. Like I just want, so she does that. So and so she was an inspiration, right? And then my son got into it, and that's when I realized, you know what, like if these guys can basically get into fitness, then I need to prioritize that too. And when I started thinking about that journey, I'm like, oh, this like all these apps that are out there, they're just like too one size fits all. I need something that molds around me, that
Sure.
learns me, that gets to know me, and that is able to adapt to what I want every day. One day I feel low on energy, I don't feel like. Second day I feel like I want like 27-inch biceps, so I want a biceps workout. So, and I don't want to go and do the research to acquire the knowledge in order to be my own trainer. But at the
Mhm.
same time, like finding a trainer to do this for you on a consistent daily basis is a very expensive proposition.
Right.
So when I saw this problem, that's when I realized like AI is the perfect solution for this. Particularly like, generative AI is the perfect solution for this because it can hyper customize for the long tail of use cases. And
Mhm.
then I talked to a bunch of my colleagues and friends, and everybody were in the same issue. They wanted to prioritize fitness, they wanted to get into it, but the aspect of getting into it was so daunting from a knowledge and content acquisition perspective. I mean, some of them used to go to YouTube and search for something, but then that got old very quickly, right?
Right.
So and so that was the realization that there is an opportunity over here for us to build something for people like me, right?
Understood.
Like, and that was the spark that started FitHub.
Okay. So why Fit Hub as the name?
So technically, I just wanted to call it Wellness Hub, but we were like the team basically felt that we were chewing off more than we could at that point in time. So we started out with Fit Hub, and we launched literally about like 40 days ago.
Okay.
And in the 40 days, like we get insane adoption. But we launched with fitness and meditation as the two aspects of generative AI. And just yesterday, we launched stretching.
Mhm.
And next month, this is like October, we are going to launch yoga, right?
Wow.
So what we've done is we basically figured out the magic behind how to make generative AI kind of hyper customize things for us. And now it's just like, it's very quick for us to basically keep adding new skills or new AI trainers to the platform. So eventually this will just become the hub or something like that. But for now, yeah, FitHub is what it'll live with.
All right. So let me double tap on the piece where you said it's an app which customizes according to a person, right?
Mhm,
So let's talk about a little bit more about that. So let's say a person cannot really do high intensity workouts. So
mhm.
you tell the app that hey, I'm not the person who can do high intensity workout. How does this customize so that viewers understand, how does this really work?
So it is literally like a chatbot, right?
Okay.
So the AI trainer is a chatbot, but unlike a chatbot, when you turn things off, it doesn't forget you.
Hmm.
It remembers you. It remembers who you are. And every single thing that you have said to it is kind of condensed into things that matter. Like, for example, if you say things like, hey, I just injured my leg, so I cannot sit down on the floor. So don't give me any floor exercises.
Hmm.
It gets it. So
Okay.
when it picks the exercises for you for today and for the foreseeable future, till it tells you that I'm recovered from this, till you tell the system that you recovered from it, it's going to only give you non-floor exercises so they can continue to engage in your fitness. Very similarly, like when I started my personal fitness journey, I had no equipment in the house,
Hmm.
right? So I said I just wanted body weight stuff. And I have very, very low attention span when it comes to any kind of activity other than sports.
Right.
So in that sense, I said I just want to start at like 10 minutes workout. 10
Hmm.
minutes I could do it, right? So it's like drinking a coffee. Yeah, within before it starts, it ends, it's done. So I started out with 10-minute workout. So I told it just give me like 7 to 10 minutes, and I don't have any equipment, so just give me body weights. And that's how I got into the habit. And then
Hmm.
after 20, 25 days, I just told it, you know what, just make it 15 minutes. It's okay. Right. I think I can manage 15. And now I'm at like about 25 minutes workout continuously every day. I've been doing it. And for 45 days, I've been doing this. And now it's a habit. And I cannot live without it because the freaking app basically tracks every day. And if I see an empty dot, I lose my streak. So I don't want to lose my streak. So I keep doing it. It's kind of like a personal goal now. But coming back to your question, yes, you can literally communicate to it anything that you can tell a trainer. So we got users who tell it things like, for example, I had one user who played badminton and they injured their knee, but they still wanted to work on their forearm and their swiftness of forearm strength and the wrist strength. So they asked for a workout that basically exercised those and protected their knee, and it was able to give them that specific workout.
Excellent. Excellent. Could you talk a little bit about the meditation part as well, the wellness side of it? Because I have used it, but I would want you to, then I can share my experience about what really.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would love to hear what your experience is as well. So the meditation is actually that is the most favorite part for me because the fitness workouts is physical wellness, which is great, but mental wellness is still considered to be taboo in most areas, and not many people focus on it. But coming from a person who comes from that background where it was kind of hard to admit that your mental wellness is also important and you need help keeping your brain and brain functions at the maximum performance, it has been an eye opener for me, right? So I practice it every day. And as I said, my attention span is very low. So all my meditations are under 5 minutes. And the beauty of the system is that the entire script for the meditation is generated on the fly. So there is nothing that is pre-curated. There is no author who has sat and written a specific meditation that somebody has recorded with music, and then we just give you a glorified playlist like all the other apps, right? So when you ask for a meditation that is for for example, today is Ganesh Chaturthi, I think, right? So something like that. So when you ask for something like that, let me meditate on Lord Ganesha, or let me meditate on India's Independence Day, right? It basically pulls in all the information that it has about that and stitches together a beautiful script around that for about 5 minutes. And then we add on, that script is fed into an AI music generator, which generates the music that is resonant of that script. So if the script talks about babbling brook and water sounds or beaches, then the music will also get generated to reflect babbling sounds and brooks and beaches and stuff. So it flows in that regard. And then we have an AI voice, which basically uses ups and downs of the voices to deliver that entire meditation to you like a real trainer would deliver that meditation to you. So that entire meditation session is put together on the fly for you within seconds. And nobody in the world would have ever listened to that meditation before or would never listen to that meditation again. It is just for you. And that is the hyper specificity.
Yeah, wow. This actually got me excited when you told me, Gopi, and that's the reason I did start using Fithub and for the meditation particularly. So I'd like to share my experience. I thought it was wonderful because I was having difficulty to sleep one night, and I did use the sleep meditation. And within a record of 4 or 5 minutes, I went to a very calm state, and I was able to sleep peacefully that night. And when you told me this is just for me, right, that actually made the whole piece very different. Because I think that's what we all need, right? As humans, we just want something which is very close to our hearts, just for ourselves. Now, also help me understand this. So if a person's have had an event or is having an event of depression or any of that, how does this app really help?
So we've tested this out with a bunch of people who are in different stages of their life, right?
Sure.
One of our clients basically was going through postpartum depression. So she was 4 months. So we didn't know about her. We didn't know she was even using FitHub. But apparently she downloaded it and she used it and she figured out this is how it works. And she has been sharing a lot of details with the AI that she would not share with another human being. Like nobody in her family, nobody, no trainer, nothing, right? So she's been sharing it with the AI agent on FitHub. And what has happened is she now does a meditation every day, and it has totally helped her transform her thought process. It's not just that just the depression goes away. Depression occurs because you're missing something in life, right? So changing your thought process to what am I looking forward to, and helping you get there, that it has really helped her. So she wrote back to us and said hey, I'm 4 months postpartum, I'm going through a really difficult phase in my life, so, but this really helped me. So thank you so much for doing this. And she was like all ears. And then we asked her, can you give us a little bit more data so we can use it in a show like this? And she
Mm.
shared this information with us.
Oh, interesting. This is really, beautiful, because I think it's not just about calming the person down, it's also helping them change their thought process, right? So that is the level of
Exactly.
how this app really works. So it truly takes care of the wellness, unlike other apps which
Exactly.
claim to take care of wellness, right? Amazing. So could you also talk about how long did it take for you to build it, Gopi? I'm sure you have a team,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Uh, so let's put it this way. About from pencils. So first, it took us about like 4 to 6 months to decide what to build, right?
okay,
Because we don't want to just be yet another fitness platform, right? So yeah, we wanted to be in the fitness space. We wanted to be hyper customized to everybody. But there are a bunch of AI fitness companies out there trying to do the same thing, right? So it's a very crowded space, and people like the abandonment rate of fitness apps is 97%.
correct.
Right. So people download it, 97% of the time they uninstall it within 30 days. This is 30 days abandonment rate. So doing something like that in the same field using the same so-called AI technology that everybody is using was futile. So we wanted to build something different, something that would be more personal. And so it took us a lot of time to arrive at what is it that we wanted to build, what is it that we wanted to be different. And once we figured out that this is the experience we want for our users, we want every one of our users to basically have a workout or a meditation that nobody else in the world ever can generate for themselves.
Hmm.
So that was the core on top of which we built the entire app. And so then we started looking for, okay, what are the pieces that we need to build it? And we started putting all those pieces together. And that took us about a year. So I would
1 year.
say close
Wow.
to, because the generative AI piece is harder, right? So,
Right.
I mean, if you want to basically have the flexibility of generating an entire meditation script and then delivering it non-robotically, right?
Mhm.
That is a hard problem to solve. So getting that entire system hooked up and getting it working took much harder. And the music generation was not that bad. It was reasonably okay. And we did a lot of testing with a lot of different kinds of people, different kinds of use cases. And what we figured out as a core audience is not your regular gym goers who basically have amazing apps which tell them exactly what weight to load. They do progressive loading. Like that's not the population, right?
Right.
So the population that's going to most benefit from this is a population that was similar to me, right? Who had the very intent of getting into a fitter lifestyle, but just it was daunting from a knowledge and from an acquiring that knowledge perspective, or it was too expensive for them. So they just wanted to get in, but didn't know how. This app will basically get their lifestyle back in order. And that's what took us about 16 months to build. So we launched it in August, and yeah, this is where we are now.
You have amazing number of downloads, and I don't see you mentioning it, so I'm going to like nudge you here. So it's been 40 days since it's out. So what is the total number of downloads that you guys have had?
Pretty much most of it has been organic. We have about 14,853 downloads just before this call.
Oh, wow. And it's all organic. Wow. And
It's pretty much
how
all
did
organic.
people
Yeah.
get to, yeah, so this is amazing, right? So how did people get to hear about Fithub, even when you're saying it's organic?
I think so what we did is we just wanted to test out the water. So we think of social media marketing as a dial. So we dialed it up and then we turn it off because we're a startup. We
Okay.
don't want to spend too much money on that, right?
Right.
So if the product is good enough, then it's going to get out to the world. That was our understanding. So we hit WhatsApp really hard. So we basically went to every one of our friends, said have your friends download it, have them forward it to their friends, and so on and so forth. So we focused on that. The second piece is when somebody generates a workout or meditation and they really like it, we provided a way for them to share that workout or that meditation with their friends, right? So
Hmm.
that way, they have an amazing experience, then they can have their friends have that amazing experience. So we kind of hooked into that social aspect of it, of sharing. We don't want to build yet another social network, but more about hey, I saw this movie. Did you see it? Here's a YouTube link or something like that, right? So effectively that. So that was the second aspect. And then there's the social media people sharing with each other, this is a nice app and cool app. So our reviews are you didn't ask about it, but I'm going to tell anyway. So
Sure.
so yeah, our reviews are also very, very motivating for the team, right? So far we had about 100 reviews on the app, and
Wow.
on Google Play Store we got 4.965, and on Apple it's a perfect 5.
Wow.
So it feels good to have built something of value that people really are embracing. So I'm happy.
Oh, this is excellent, Gopi. So this, I'm sure you're feeling a lot fulfilled, not because of the ratings, not because of the reviews, right? But something that you built, which is so cool that people are actually adopting to it and feeling good about using it in their daily lives, right? You're actually impacting everyone's daily life and helping them build on their health and fitness and wellness as well.
Absolutely. See, that's what we set out to do.
Sure.
And so everything else that comes out of it is it's a sideline. But if your goal is perfect and you basically say, this is what I want to achieve, you make money out of it, or you get a name out of it, or you get popularity out of it. All of them are outcomes. You never optimize for outcomes, right? You always optimize for what is your goal, what is your passion, what do you want to have. And what I wanted to have and what the team wanted to have was an impact on at least a few people's lives. So, and we believe that we have accomplished that.
Sure, sure. So I'm also going to ask you this question that I'd asked you when I was using the app. So you are thinking of bringing in languages. You'd mentioned this. So, if India in T2, T3, people who want to use a specific language, India being a broader place and, so many other languages, how are you looking at tackling that problem?
So, we're going to wait. So, because there are companies which are tackling that exact problem, right?
Right.
So, we don't want to bite off more than we can chew. There is a lot more we can build even in this space to add value to the population centers that we are targeting. So we are seeing a lot of traction coming in from Malaysia, some users from China, Beirut.
Wow.
It's fun. I basically I did not even know some of these cities existed in the world, right? So I'm seeing these cities for the first time. It is a lot of fun to see them pop up on our map saying hey, there are users here. So there is a lot of opportunity to keep doing what we're doing and add value. But the switch to enabling it in multiple languages is not that difficult to one. It just needs to be solved as a core technology problem. And I'm pretty sure big companies like Amazon and Google are already working on solving that problem in multi-language and multi-modalities. So that being the case, I'm just going to play the waiting game over here, not going to bite off more than I can chew. And then once they solve it, we'll get it in.
Sure. Apart from stretching and yoga, what are the other few things that, as a user, we can expect?
So we are going to get in calisthenics,
Okay.
and then bar
Mm-hmm.
and Pilates.
Oh, very nice. So for some strange reason, Gopi, I thought you'll probably get into building an app or, or building something around sports. This is the closest to sports, I must say, because I do remember that we spoke so much about, if you remember, we met at a cricket place where your son was playing cricket, and we spoke about
Right.
how computer vision can actually track and tell what the person's doing. And we discussed quite intensely about it. Right. So I was hopeful that you would actually go into the sports side, but you've built something which will actually progress the person. Right. But is there something on the cards which will get woven into sports and towards that side through Fithub? Do you see that happening?
Yes, I do, but when, I don't know. The reason I say that is because even the current set of things that we are adding to the platform is coming from our customers. So first we launched with fitness and meditation, right? And then we saw a bunch of customers ask for a bunch of things. And then we analyzed all those requests that come in. And as part of the analysis, we said, okay, what are the next two things we want to build? And out came the answers from our customers that we want stretches and we want yoga. So those are the two things that we're building. And then the next two in that list is calisthenics and Pilates. So as we keep adding more and more, our customers are going to tell us what they want. And as they tell us what they want, we're going to keep adding it into the equation. So That's kind of going to be the progression. Now, like whether we'll take a complete pivot on this and then like, move into the sports training phase, maybe. But I believe that there are like amazing experts, like real world people who can do a fantastic job of it. So I'd rather have them focus on like, fine motor skills of what is required for sports. And we focus on like, getting ready to execute on those fine motor skills.
Okay, good. All right. I'm going to read something that's on your LinkedIn bio. So I'm looking down here. So you've put up
Man. Okay.
something on your bio as if something does not have a possible failure rate of over 80%, then it does not interest you. Now, there are two schools of thought here. Since you put that bold statement out there, how does it work for you as an entrepreneur? That is part A of the question. And part B is, if this is what you're looking at, how does it work for you when you're an investor? So,
yeah. So yeah, as an entrepreneur, I should revise that statement. So it's a hard call. Like, now that I've been running Fithub for 2 years, I realized that like, 80% failure rate is really not that good a thing. So particularly for startups, apparently it's 99.9%. So 1 in 1,000 startups make it big, right? So it's not necessarily that number. So I would actually give anything for 80% right now, but we'll see where that goes. But from an investor perspective, so the way to think about that 80% is that if you're not striving to be in that bucket, two things happen. One is, are you really solving a problem that is already solved, or does the problem even exist?
Correct.
Right. If it's not 80%, then like, is it a problem worth solving? If the failure rate is not 80%. So that is the question that you got to ask yourself, right? So maybe you're going after a problem that doesn't need a solution, right? Because the risk of that solution is so low. So if it was there, like, maybe the market doesn't exist for it. The second way to think about it is, if it is not 80%, as in the failure rate is not 80%, then somebody else would have already done it.
Right.
And so it is very important for you to investigate as to why that somebody who did it is basically not successful, and try to learn from it. So as an investor, I look for these two in a company to say, like, are you solving a real problem, or are you basically coming up with a technology that basically is looking for a problem to solve? Right. So that is a very different thought process. So if you say like, oh, I built this amazing technology and now I need to apply it to a problem, I need to find a more product market fit, I need to go after this, I'm out. Like I'd rather you come and tell me there is this problem that really needs a solution. I don't know how the heck to solve it. Right. And I would readily invest in that company, because you have identified a problem. There is a market for this. It is a hard problem, which means like I'm all for solving hard problems, right? So I really don't mind like however hard the problem is. I'm with you on the journey. I'm more than happy to invest. I'm more than happy to invest my time, my money, my technical acumen, anything that you want. Let's do this together. I'm happy. But if you basically say that, what, the problem is very easy, but I'm just going to solve it and like, hope to God that like, I basically get the traction. Nah, I'm out.
Sure. So this is your thesis when you go into investing? If I join the dots?
These are two aspects of my thesis. The third aspect of my thesis is I invest in people.
Okay.
I don't invest in companies or products. Like any startup founder will tell you, the first product that you build is not the product you're going to ship. It's very clear. It's very, very obvious, right? It will not even be close. Like if you look at, there's a sales company in Seattle called Outreach. Manny Medina built it, right? And originally, like, they were a month away from bankruptcy, and they were actually building a platform for recruiting.
Okay.
And they were so good at reaching out to their partners with all the context and everything that they had talked about earlier, that the partners, who are also like, co-people, basically said, I don't want your recruiting platform, but how the heck are you able to come to every meeting with so much context that it surprises me that I don't have that context? And we had this discussion before. How are you able to get there? Sell me that as a platform. So they shifted from like a recruiting platform to a sales platform, and now they are $1 billion unicorn, right? So basically, your first product is not the one that you're going to build. So, which means that I'm not investing in your product. I'm not even investing in your product area. What I'm investing in is basically the founder, the founding team, their tenacity to basically overcome problems and their ability to identify a problem worth solving.
Sure, sure. So let's spin the table and say you're on the founder side, right? So now, as an entrepreneur, when someone tells you exactly the same thing, what you're building first may not be the actual product that you'll ship. Now, when someone says that to you, since it's just been like 16 months and 40 days that the product's out, how would you react to this now, Gopi?
So yes, that is true. Actually, this product was first built for consumers.
Okay.
Right? And the product that we built was actually doing a bunch of people getting together, starting a live workout session for themselves as a group,
Okay.
and then doing that workout together from their individual homes. So
All right.
it's like launch a Zoom call and let the AI trainer run the entire workout for you. And everybody from their homes basically logs in at the same time. And as a group, they work out and they're done.
Okay.
That was the original version of this. So the first product is not what we built.
Okay. All right.
Right.
Yeah.
So what you see is you think it's the first product, but we've gone through 3 iterations before we came to this.
Okay. That's interesting. That's interesting. So would you be able to say that, as an entrepreneur, I know it's a new journey that you've taken on, but what would be some of the things that you'd like to share for budding entrepreneurs across the world who still, not so sure, should they get into building something? What is the one piece that you'd like to share with them as advice or maybe suggestion?
Don't leave it till the end. So if you're going to jump in, just jump in. Things have a way of working out. Right. So you will figure out a second job. You will basically find out a consulting opportunity. You will find out a way to make sure that your bills are met. You can go on Fiverr and basically provide your services over there. Like do something. You can put a Udacity thing, or worst can become an Instagram, a celebrity, right? So you can do things to make money. But there is a window of opportunity when you can actually take what is it that is in your brain and materialize it into a product. Right. And that window of opportunity is very dependent on opportunity cost. So as you grow older in life, as you basically reach a point in life, your opportunity cost becomes way too high. And the opportunity cost of everything around you, the lifestyle that you've built, starts weighing in on you. And at that point in time, it's much more difficult proposition. So get in early, get in quick, and iterate really, really fast. Right. So figure out a way to say this won't work rather than figure out a way to say this might work. Right. So every product, every idea that you come up with, always think about why won't this work? And if the answer to that is technology, no problem. But if the answer to that is anything other than technology, as in like why this won't work, you have a problem.
Understood. Understood.
Right. So that's my only advice. That's in fact that's what I follow personally, and I wouldn't say I'm very good at it because sometimes passion always ends up outruling brain. So you always end up going oh, my passion is for this. I'm going to make sure I'm going to do this. But then your brain says otherwise, and passion always wins, and that's okay. That's why you're a founder. That's why you're part of the 0.1%. Right? You have that ability to drive passion enough so that your brain starts following it. So don't let that phase you, but at the same time, be cognizant of the fact that you need to fail fast, iterate fast, and find that beautiful product that's in your brain, and then start building it.
Awesome. So beautiful. So Gopi, are you hiring people, if people want to join you after listening to whatever you said on the show?
We are looking for machine learning engineers, primarily more on the senior end of the spectrum. We are basically, since we are, as you said, multi languages, we need to go into multiple countries. and try to basically solve the problem across not just fitness and meditation, but we need yoga, we need Pilates, we need calisthenics, we need the 10 other things that's going to come after it, right? It's a hub. So if we need to solve all that, the piece that basically restricts us is our ability of hiring machine learning engineers. So we are definitely looking for MLEs who are familiar with LLMs, generative AI, to basically come in and see. Our hiring process is very simple.
Okay.
None of us had AI experience 10 years ago.
True.
Now the entire team is a bunch of AI experts, right? So it's not about what you know, it's about how you train yourself and pick up new things. That's what we look for as Fithub. So please, if you are in that small percentage of population who's like, you know what, I don't know this, but I can figure it out, talk to us.
Awesome. So we're going to leave your social handles and take you up on what you've just said on the show. So all those guys who are looking out to joining your team, I'm sure they'll be happy to partner with you. So Gopi, before we end the show, any last few words for people that you'd like to share, suggestions, call out to investors, or just people in general?
Hey. Calling out investors, absolutely. We are definitely looking to raise the next round. Based on the traction and the reviews that we have, we definitely have found a product market fit. We are looking at employee benefits, and we're also looking for companies to bring in terms of industrial wellness as well. People who do heavy lifting or who basically sit and drive taxis all day long. They need some kind of different stretches and different kind of fitness activities so that their bodies can recover in time for the next day of job. So we are looking for companies where we can present this solution that we have built to different set of user bases. So call out to all those companies to reach out to us for employee as well as industrial wellness. So that's it.
Awesome. So we're going to leave your handles there for people to get in touch with you, Gopi. Thank you so much for being on this show, and thank you for doing this so late in the evening. I really appreciate your time.
Rupa, thank you so much for the opportunity. I've had a wonderful time, and I would be remiss if I didn't talk about your team. They were amazing. It's like the fastest that we've done any kind of onboarding, right? 48 hours from the first email that I sent out to onboarding your entire team onto the corporate wellness platform. That is amazing. And then this call itself was literally scheduled over 2 emails in 15 minutes. Right. So that's unbelievable execution. So kudos to your team for doing this. And thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. I'm sure they're going to love this part and play it multiple times on the show. But thank you so much, Gopi. Thanks for your kind words.